And I do record these, so, and then I'll get to that here in a minute. So you do have access outside of class if you ever mix a lecture or something like that. But, all right. So we're in here. This is Wednesday, right? Lose track of time. This is Wednesday. We're in here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at this time. And then on Thursdays, it's lab day. And so I think in the web advisor, it says room 302. So I'm hoping to keep 302, but more than likely we'll be in 512. So if you want to on your, this might be where you, let's see, I'm going to change my pen right here. Like where it says in Thursdays, meet from 9 to 10:50. I wrote 512, which tomorrow, 512, okay? But sometimes it's going to be hopefully in room 302, right next door. So both of those on Thursdays. So lab is fun. Some of you need, how many people are taking this because they need a lab credit? Very good. So we'll try to, you know, I think I'm doing some new things. So I think it'll be fun. So my office is down by the chem lab. Tomorrow you are going to be in 512. That's, I call it the chem lab, but it's really physical science lab. And my office is right next to that, 508. And you kind of see, well, when you walk by my office, you'll see when my office hours are. But it's usually in the mornings before this class, like for an hour. So I'm usually here by 9. So if you have any questions, that's a good time. Otherwise, I have another class. I have astronomy after this, and then I have a 2-hour break. So I can kind of remember that. I'm available then. That's posted on my door. I will also take my schedule and push it out to E-Companion. How many people use the E? I don't know if they call it E-Companion anymore, but the E thing. So I'll put my my schedule out there in case you want to know where I am. So there's my phone number and my extension, okay, and my email address. So feel free to contact me. If you have, you know, email's wonderful. Email's like the same thing as, you know, you don't want to phone call somebody because you just want to text them, right? So email is kind of the same thing. I also have, anybody in here have a Twitter account? Do Twitter? Okay, very cool. I promise not to follow you, stalk you. So here's my Twitter. I have 2 Twitter. Well, the other one isn't here. But the other Twitter I haven't created yet. But it's going to hopefully look like this. I'll put it up here. This science one is really general, and so if you go out and look at that one, I don't have a lot of followers, but it's just the things I find that's interesting in science. I don't like post my everyday thing, what's going on. But I'm going to create another Twitter account, and it is going to be same pattern, EA Snipes, and it's going to be _, and it's going to be, guess what, PHS120. Now, it's not created yet, but that's on my list of things to do shortly. And that will be, when I record stuff, that will be where I push out my recordings. They'll just be like YouTube videos, and if you subscribe to that Twitter, follow that Twitter account, then you'll get the videos. And then also, when stuff is due, of course you'll know it when you're here in class, but I will also, on my Twitter account, just say da-da-da is due, okay? And when things are due, it's the next time we meet, usually. So that's that. So this semester, I don't see a lot of, for this, does anybody have been in the bookstore and gotten the stuff you need for this class yet? Mm-hmm. Kind of waiting? Okay, good. The bound, or it's not bound, it's like shrink wrapped. 2 things, that's right. You need 2 things. You need the spiral notebook thingy and the shrink wrapped thingy. Cool. Awesome. So the thing about that textbook is, how much was it? It was expensive?
Almost 200.
Was it? Okay. Well, I'll look into that because I was trying to get one that was cheaper. The copyright on this is 2016. We're like, really? By my calculations. So it's new, and I went this route to hopefully bring down some of the costs because you can't get it used. I tried. But the cool thing is, can I borrow yours? In the back of it, and we'll be talking about this here in a minute, is it's got, well, I don't know how cool you'll think it is, but you actually have an access code to get the e-textbook, which, how do people use e-textbooks? Okay. So that may or may not work for you, but also with the access associated with e-textbook is in how many people do homework. Yeah, I know everybody does homework. Is an online version of the homework for this course. Now, like I explained in my syllabus, you don't have to go online to do your homework, because some people don't. I don't do online. I don't have access to internet. So you'll have an option to do the paper version or the online version. So, okay. So you need those two things, and the spiral thing. I'm kind of excited. The spiral thing looks like. My stuff is on PowerPoint. I think I like PowerPoint. I have mixed feelings about PowerPoint. But when you buy the spiral bound thing, what you're going to see is that what I've done is I've blown up the slides in the semester, because I used to go like little six slides to a page and you can hardly see it. So they are very big and in your face. And I have them printed up so you don't have to print them up. So that's kind of nice. Now they do have like blanks, like you'll see blanks up here. There's 3 blanks, okay, for instance, and those will be for you to fill in when that slide, the second slide comes up. That's how that works. Where are we going to be tomorrow? Yes, Chem Lab. Tomorrow in the Chem Lab. Let's see. It's not doing it. So tomorrow we'll be in 512. And I mention that because this says something about goggles. Okay. Now you'll need goggles. But if you've had a chance to look forward in the syllabus, we're going to break the course up into physics, and then chemistry, and then astronomy, and then meteorology, and maybe a little bit of earth science. Okay, so you only need goggles for chemistry. So that's how that works. So I brought a pair of goggles here to show you. And I also think I put in my syllabus that you can most likely borrow these. Come on, computer. So there's a good chance that when we get to the chemistry unit, you probably won't have to buy them. How are we doing so far? Okay. So the other thing, actually, you'll need this for the physics unit. So don't be afraid. Well, hopefully not. Well, when we get to physics calculations, we're going to hopefully, I have just a kind of a handful of calculations I want us to be able to do, and we'll work through them together, okay? But you do need a calculator. While I'm thinking of it, if you could bring your calculators Friday, that would be awesome, okay? So my thing says you cannot have, this is a programmable calculator, it's a graphing calculator. You can kind of tell because it looks like you could draw a graph on that big screen, okay? So this one, you can't use a graphing calculator. A lot of people already have them because you can have an unfair advantage. Not that you would, but. So you need, I got this from the Dollar Tree. Guess how much I paid? $1. Yeah. So you do need a calculator that's not programmable. And you know you have the right calculator. It has to be able to handle what we call scientific notation. And so you know if your calculator has an SCI key, if it has an EE key, if it has an EXP key. These days there's something new. If it has a 10 to the X key, that's kind of new. Kind of new way of doing things. If it has one of these keys, then you know it can handle scientific notation. Okay, so you need one of those. And hopefully by Friday if you could, because then we'll kind of look at them and we'll kind of, I love the feel of a calculator. It's just me. Any questions so far? No prerequisites. Okay, get that. And a little bit of math. Like I said, I'm trying to, if you have questions about the math, we'll kind of cover that when we get there. So I mentioned the kind of the different areas of physical science. So we have physics, the first unit, chemistry, the second unit, astronomy, the next unit. Just let me go down here. And meteorology, the fourth unit. And then the fifth unit, as we have time, will be, like I said, earth science. So in each of these areas make me smile. So I don't know if they make you smile. There's some very practical stuff here. So what I've done in each of these areas is try to kind of pick out what I think is the most interesting or, to talk about or teach. So attendance. So we'll go ahead and take attendance now. How's that? I'll take attendance in the first part of every day. Now, if I mispronounce your name or you want to be called something different, let me know. How about Cammie Adams? Cool. Heather Bell? Yeah. Great. Kennedy Cockrell? Yep. Awesome. Devin Humphrey? Duh. Emily McAfee? Good. Brooklyn Means?
I have to go by Brooke.
Brooke? Very good. I know that. Jessica Nolan? No, not yet? Okay. Cassandra Page?
Cassie.
Cassie. Ryan Wiesenberg? Brooke Smith? Cool. Heather Wason? Grace Williams? Okay. Did I get everybody? I think I did. Okay. Yeah, so attendance. And the thing about it is, if you're not here, you probably need to, a few things. If you're not here, feel free to send me an email, and I'll get back to you, with your email. And sometimes in your email, or my response to you, I'll tell you what we covered, okay, and that sort of thing. So you'll still need to maybe fill in those blanks. And you have a couple ways you can ask your peers, or you can ask me, or you can watch the video. So, I don't know. Those are kind of some options. So, assignments. So, I mentioned WebAssign. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just finish the syllabus, and then we'll come back to WebAssign. How's that? Okay. Okay. WebAssign is that online homework that you have an option to do, or you don't have to do. No extra credit. I'm curious as all get out, though, if you like it or not. No, I don't really have this semester kind of slots for extra credit, but I'll keep my eyes open. So we'll come back to the assignments. Usually assignments are going to be due next lecture period, okay? So now if we have run into any, I say usually, because if with the WebAssign, if we kind of run into some snags, if I or we run into some snags, I might kind of give you a little extra time. I don't know. Can't decide. So with the assignments, make sure it's your own work. You guys can definitely work together. And if it's like a physics or a chemistry problem with math and stuff, they will look identical. But if it's like a narrative sort of, you have to explain something, they should not look identical. So, sort of thing. Working together is great, though. All right, the laboratory component should be fun. If you're there in lab, you'll get full credit for being there in lab. Now, with that said, you will have a little sheet to fill on, a data sheet and calculation sheet to fill on while you're there, but nothing outside of lab to get credits. That's kind of nice. And most labs will be in 512. Tests, there'll be, I mentioned there's kind of 5 units. The last one's kind of a short unit. There will be 4 unit exams, though. Okay, and what I do is have those on Thursdays. So I have them on lab days. So that's why I want to have room 302 especially on the Thursdays that we have an exam. We'll just meet in there and take your exams. Any questions so far? Kind of standard? Okay. So, for unit exams, now every teacher needs to deal with the reality that sometimes you can't make it to take a test, okay? If you know that you can't make it to take a test, and usually I give you a week in advance when the test is going to be, then if you know ahead of time, you have some options. You can take the test early, okay? That reminds me, sometimes hey there. Sorry. You're fine. Sometimes I have set a student up in the I've set a student up in the Success Center to take their tests just because sometimes it's, quite frankly, just distractions. They do better in that environment. So that's a possibility. The end of my syllabus says if you have anything that would make this class better for you, let me know. You know, we can kind of work with that. Oh yeah, what do I do if you can't take a test? If something comes up and you miss a test, then I don't have a makeup test. I wrestled with that. And the way I handle that is when it comes time for your final exam, which is comprehensive, which means it's over all the stuff we covered, your final exam score, I will substitute in for your best unit exam. That's kind of how I handle that. The other thing I do with your final exam score, though, is I compare it to your lowest unit exam. So you took all the unit exams, and let's say you one unit exam you didn't do as well, maybe you got 70% and you wanted to do better on a unit exam, but your final you kicked butt, you got like a 95. Okay, so that would count twice. It would count for your final and also substitute it in here. I think what I'm going to do for my finals, I've done this before, is actually your final exam is going to be kind of an assortment of the questions you've already seen on your unit exams. Okay, how we doing so far? Yeah, good deal. Okay, what else we got? Okay, eCompanion website, I mentioned that I'm going to kind of throw out there like my schedule and things like that. We'll look at the eCompanion site for this class. Right now, it looks pretty bleak. I mean, not bleak, it's just really kind of boring. I'm going to add stuff to your eCompanion site, but I need to get to that. But the eCompanion site, and I think I saw that a lot of people have used it. The good thing about eCompanion is you can see your grade as I throw stuff in there, but a lot of times I don't update the grade book in eCompanion until you've taken a test. The other thing I'm kind of playing around with eCompanion, it's kind of new, is they have, teachers have an attendance button, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to pop up your attendances too. I think you can see all your P's for presence or your A's for absence, so we'll see. Let's see. Special needs, again, just kind of let me know, inside or outside of class. Lab's kind of a nice time. A lot of times in lab, I talk about it and then I turn you loose and then you kind of just do your thing. So tomorrow's lab obviously needs to be kind of a physics lab, okay, and it's going to be an introduction to where 512 is, and so I think it's going to be fun. That's where my kids roll their eyes and go, oh, Mom. Okay. So you can kind of see where the points are in this class. Those assignments that you turn in, either the paper ones or the electronic web assigns, those will be worth 10% of your grade. The labs, worth a quarter of your grade here, so just come on Thursdays and jump through the hoops. Now remember that you guys got this, that labs start at an hour earlier, right? Labs start at 9. Okay, so lectures at 10, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and labs are at 9 on Thursdays. Your unit exams, those 4 unit exams will be collectively 45% of your grade. And then the comprehensive final, which I told you is going to be, so keep your unit exams to refer to get ready for your final, is going to be mostly stuff lifted and put on there. So I do give pluses and minuses, kind of the standard percent in here. Okay. And all teachers do this, but like if your attendance is good and your attitude is good and it's all been kind of a great sort of semester, if you're borderline, I'll bump you up to the next great, you know what I'm saying? Like the half grades are nice. But if things have been kind of, then you definitely get what you earn in there. Numbers don't lie. Okay. Then tomorrow we'll be having our first lab, room 512. You don't need goggles, okay? And there's really no necessarily, later on when we do chemistry, you'll actually, in the chemistry lab, there are these cute little drawers that everybody gets, you know, but you don't need that for a while because the physics stuff I just hand out to you. So we'll be checking that later. But these are just some things about the lab in advance. Let's see, item number 2 up there might be interested in that if you miss a lab, I don't do makeup labs, okay? But if you miss a lab, one lab goes away. So we should have probably about 10 labs by the time, 16 weeks, but some of those Thursdays we're going to be having unit exams, okay? So I throw one out, and I say if your attendance is good in lecture, I'll throw 2 out. So that's pretty good. So let's see. Item number 3 up there, if you arrive more than 10 minutes late to the lab, remember it starts at 9, so 9:10 or so, then I'm kind of like, oh, no, that's not fair. You just need to go back to sleep. Go home, go back to sleep. Just because a lot of times that first 10 minutes is important in talking about the science behind what you're doing. Okay, it gets too confusing. But you will be working in groups, okay, so that's kind of nice. So be thinking who you want to be grouped up with, and if you don't know anybody, then you'll meet somebody. Item number 5, we'll talk about safety for each lab. Okay. Number 6, make sure you be careful with your equipment. Number 7, it's worth a quarter of your grade. Number 8 up there probably won't apply, but you never want to. In science, you need to be proud of your good numbers and your bad numbers. Proud of your numbers that make sense and proud of your numbers that don't make sense. There's been some awesome discoveries in science by numbers that do not make sense, quite frankly. So that's kind of that. Any questions? Okay. So let's go take a look at web assign. Right click. So you're going to want to have paper and pencil handy because I'm going to give you, in order to get onto WebAssign, you're going to need what they call a class key. I think that's what they call it. Oh, come on. Goodness gracious. Okay, so the address, it's pretty easy. I don't think it's got that HTTP thing, but it's www.webassign.net, N-E-T. So that's, you're gonna, and these instructions will be on the little card that you get with your shrink-wrapped text. Webassign.net. Okay, because you can kind of see that's where I'm at. Now mine looks a little different because I'm the instructor. But the class key, I wrote this down, that you need and instructors have an option of like having the students like sign themselves up, or the instructor signs themselves, the students up, and I'm like, you guys can do it yourselves. So, okay, so the class key is, I believe you'll need SCC Iowa, all one word, no spaces, and then a space, and then 4 digits, 2789, and then a space, and then ends with 4 more digits, 7010. So SCC Iowa, space, 2789, space, 7010. Okay, so that should get you there. So when you guys come in, I have an option up here to click on Open Student View. You're just so patient. think that's kind of finishing up with that. Are there any questions about the syllabus?
Do we get note cards for our test?
Yes, you do get a note card for your test. Good question. And it's like, let's go with 4 by 6. And for the final, we'll go 5 by 8. I don't know if you caught the question in some of my classes. Well, in all my classes, most of my classes, you'll get like a little sheet before the test that says what kind of the topics that made it to the test. Okay, I call a review sheet. And then from that, if you want to get a note card, an index note card, you can put notes on it that you think will help you on the test. And that is front and back. But it has to be handwritten. You can write in pen or pencil, but. Any questions? So this is the student view. I don't have a whole lot to show you here. I don't have any assignment for you yet, okay? That's also on my list. I really think by Friday I'll have something to throw out there so you can kind of play around with it. There's a good chance that when I make an assignment, it's going to be, I'll probably give you more than just the next lecture day. So I will let you know, try to communicate that clearly, right? So there's nothing there, but what is here is my ebooks. You might, if you haven't, because I know a lot of students, they've either tried e-textbooks and they don't like them, or they have never tried them. If you've tried them and didn't like them, I would just suggest that you try them again, okay? Because I think they've improved. The thing about it's kind of standard. There is a place for you to go ahead and highlight stuff that you're reading and also you can make notes. You can type notes and how to tack them to a certain page. It's just, I think it's kind of convenient, potentially. The other thing that Pearson's done with this e-textbook is there are links to YouTube videos. So, isn't that fun? I'm like, sometimes a YouTube video can make it pop out at you more than just reading it. Okay, so this is what it's generally going to look like. You see the chapters over there, and I guess I don't have much more to. You just play around with it. You can't break it. The days of being able to accidentally hit the wrong button and break something are not as bad as they used to be. One of the things I noticed this morning is, by golly, I sure can't read that. So you're going to want to zoom it in. Oops, in, not out. Okay, you're going to zoom it in, and X out of that thing. You can bring the contents back by clicking on that gray button, contents, that sort of thing. So you guys know or remember that SCC has a lot of computers that if you're on campus, a lot of computers that you have access to. So, it's a thought. Are there any questions about this?
One question, can you access this and take the book back? Will there ever be a time when we need the book in class?
I don't think so. I don't think there'll be a time that you'll need the book in class. I don't think so. I think though so that's a possibility. Did you hear what she said? Especially since she said it's $200. Okay.
A lot of times, it's cheaper to buy online access than it is book.
Because she's got a good point. I would say though, if you're, if you're willing to go all digital, that sort of thing, and just get the website. I know the publisher does put this out. You need access to the textbook, whether it's the physical one or the e-text. You need access because you need the material to reinforce what I'm talking about. You need to know what the assignment is. So the thing is, what I was told by the publisher was that if I just went with this was like $20 past this. You know what I'm saying? This was not much compared to what I wanted for web assignment. And I thought it was a lot less than like your hardbound book. So that's kind of why I went this way. Did that answer your question? So yeah, you can. I know that the bookstore doesn't take them back if you open them up, right? I was like, oh, maybe can you see like the access code? I think you have to open it up and get to the book. So, any questions? Like, this whole, where do you get your textbooks from? Oh my gosh, how many people buy most of their textbooks other than the bookstore? Yeah, other than the bookstore.
It's ridiculous. They save like quarter, they pay like quarter the price from Chegg or Door or someplace.
I think with, if you're here on money that's specific, like grant money, then sometimes bookstores are like that. But yeah, you can get it cheaper at other places. I tried. Okay, good question. And keep me posted. Any other questions about this whole thing? Okay. I think that's it. Let's just, for kicks, go to do a few slides. I know, so go ahead and, if you have your spiral bound notes, go ahead and pull those up. Yeah, I know, it's like went the blue screen of death, right? It's going to go. PowerPoint can be a little dry sometimes, but I don't know. I like being able to kind of walk around. It's coming back, don't worry. Wake people up, wake me up. There we go. Voila! When we get started, like especially maybe Friday or so, what you're going to see is the slides look really full. They look packed full of stuff. Like, Mrs. Snipes, why did you put so much stuff on one slide? And part of the reason is I wanted to go the route of I wanted to have nice big slides in the printed copy. So let's see. No, my computer, my laptop is tired. Let's see. I want to do this. Okay. So your textbook kind of starts out about what is science, and the title of this class is Physical Science, and we'll talk about what is science in a minute, but what is physical science? You're like, what the heck, right? So actually, physical science, I have some figures here I got off the internet that show you kind of science and kind of break it down into kind of this tree sort of looking stuff. So with regard to science, there's different ways to break it out. We can break it out this way, where we have formal science, natural science, and humanistic science. Okay? And of course, the class that you're taking is physical science. Okay, so physical science must be that physics, chemistry, astronomy, meteorology, okay, and all that stuff. So, but physical science is under natural science, and the other one is biological science. Okay, that's the other natural science. To me, without kind of the nuts and bolts of how our universe works, physical science, you would not have biological science. But without the nuts and bolts of how mathematics crunches, we wouldn't have physical science. Okay, so, and these things over here, these would be, I think sometimes you all have probably taken psychology and sociology. Ology means study of, that's what these are. So another way to break up, and this is from a different point of view, how to break up science, we can talk about those behavioral social sciences versus the natural sciences. And then you kind of see a similar trend here. Under natural sciences, we have biological sciences, which somebody apparently did not care too much about because they didn't expand on biological sciences. I bet they could. I bet we could. Okay. But physical sciences, you see kind of here what we're studying in this course. Physical sciences. I was thinking about this on the way to work this morning, and physical sciences are basically not living, not alive, nor have they ever been alive. It's funny because sometimes they'll talk about stars like they're alive. Okay. Just different ways of, and again, we'll kind of say how do you know if something's a science, or I'm going to call it actually non-science here in a minute. Again, just another person, breaking up what is science, different branches of science, right? Have social sciences under natural sciences. Again, you see physical science. We picked up meteorology, or I don't know which one we picked up here, but physical sciences are biological sciences. So I think they all about say the same thing. And this one's kind of an interesting sort of down, spreads out and then back down again. I'm not necessarily going to go through all of these, but just kind of an interesting way. One of the things that I mentioned, math feeds physics or physical science, and physical science ultimately feeds into, or physics feeds chemistry, and chemistry feeds biology. So one of the things in high school even, when they're trying to think what should students take first, what do you take first? And there's all that discussion about pedagogy. They need the math for the physics, and they need the physics a bit for the chemistry, and they need chemistry for the biology. It's all cool, though. It's all cool, right? So, one of the things that you've probably all been exposed to, somewhere K through 12, is the scientific method. Okay, of approaching things, to understanding things, the scientific method of understanding these sciences. And I have an assortment of figures again to try to reinforce that. So all these figures are a little bit different, but what they have in common are things like you make observations. You see the word hypothesis. From your observations, sometimes they call it hypothesis a best guess, right? You might have heard that before. That's what a hypothesis is, okay? So, and you kind of, you test your hypothesis. That's your experimentation, and hopefully your hypothesis survives your experimentations, but if it doesn't, then you need to either throw your hypothesis out, start again, or just kind of revise it a little bit. So again, somebody else kind of looking at the same concept, scientific method. Ask a question, do your research, construct a hypothesis, test your best guess hypothesis with experimentation. So was your hypothesis true or false? Now this is an important, to me, modern day science, an important element is that whatever you publish, or we publish things, okay, scientists publish things. Like for chemistry, there's a journal of chemistry. For physics, there's a journal of physics, For biology, they probably have an assortment of journals. But what happens when you publish is you're putting it out there in front of your friends. Well, they aren't all your friends. You're putting it out there in front of other scientists, your peers. Okay? So peer review is very important. And I say scientists are like a bunch of little kids that they all want to shoot each other down. So they'll try their darndest to show your hypothesis is wrong. Okay. Again, it's kind of a vicious cycle. So, being a scientist is kind of like troubleshooting what you guys do all the time. Like, say something in your computer's not working, all the troubleshooting things that you go through to try to fix it is kind of what science is, I think. work? Didn't it work? Rule it out. It partially worked. Well, what does that mean? We should be getting about to the end of these. Scientific method. Now, this one is different because what's different on here, you see the word theory. This, I think, might be the first slide that I threw up here this morning. A theory is kind of like if you play checkers and you get to the other side, your opponent's side of the checkerboard, okay, they king you. That's like your hypothesis surviving all your experimentation, your peer review, all of your alterations. It gets over to the side, okay? Being king from a hypothesis to a theory, okay? That's kind of what I mean. A theory is basically a hypothesis that has survived the scrutiny of experimentation and other people trying to shoot it down. Now, theories can be wrong, okay? Our theories can be proven wrong, but theories are pretty rigorous. Okay. Now, there's a subtle difference between a scientific theory that came from a hypothesis that somebody kind of thought about, put the pieces together, and said this is the way it is. That's their theory from their hypothesis versus a law. A law is a law. Starting right off the bat, we're going to talk about Newton's laws of motion. A law is just the way it is. Okay. We know, for instance, one of the cool things about Newton's laws is, let's see if I can get something that'll roll. Newton says, if you push something, that's giving it a force. Apply a force, okay, it will actually, if it was at rest, it will accelerate to some sort of speed. Okay, if you apply a force, it will accelerate. It will go fast. Okay, that's a law. That's just the way it is. Okay, so those laws are slightly different than a theory. Okay, do we have time for this? I think we do. We'll kind of knock this out. Just a couple of slides, right? So your textbook addresses this, and I kind of add on just a little bit, but there's this thing about science versus non-science, and only recently I thought, doesn't the word non-science sound like nonsense? So non-science is nonsense, but there are some things that we love that are actually not science. Sometimes we think if you add the word OLG in Latin means study of, ology, sometimes we think that's a science. One of the things, or the thing I'm teaching, at the top of the next hour, is astronomy, but some of us know there's astrology, okay? Astrology is not a science. The reason astrology is not a science, and I have a slide coming up, hallmarks of science, is because astrology, which I said we love, hey, I like reading my fortune and fortune cookie too, astrology, okay? But the thing about astrology is the whole horoscope thing. It's kind of when you were born and how the stars were then, how the stars are now. That's kind of how your day is going to be, okay? That really the whole, literally predicting and being able to test that outcome is true doesn't work. Okay, so pseudoscience is an imposter. So I mentioned astrology is a pseudoscience. I mean, it's not a science. I guess if the word pseudoscience, you should just say it's not a science. Pseudo means it's almost a science. UFOlogy, oh my gosh, I love those ancient, on the History Channel, I don't know what they call it, but just like Ancient Aliens. I love that show. Cryptozoology is like Bigfoot and all that. That's kind of cool, but you're like, I love it, but numerology, I'm not sure exactly what that is.
It's like believing that numbers that you see throughout your day mean something.
That's cool. Thank you. Means numbers that you see means different things throughout your day to you personally. And I'm just like, so those are things I ponder, but they're not science, So. Does that bring us up to this slide? Okay, this is going to be a great place to start on Friday. Okay, and if you're kind of looking ahead a few slides, you see that what I want to do is have your calculators handy for Friday if you could. So, any questions? So I'll start with this slide on Friday. Alrighty.